Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. I feel like Copiers Plus has to create an access to hats matrix for you so you can keep up with things.
All right, so I think it's been established I was in somewhat of a fog on Sunday.
A little bit, yeah.
So I'm now catching up on some things, and the Venmo is obviously connected to my email. So I see it and I'm like, well, I know Serena's your friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here thinking, oh no, like, did Serena email me? Did I promise her a hat? Did I make some,
She was at the OG Summer Jam.
Okay, so she was there. You gave her a hat.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Done. But now I'm like going through my other emails being like, okay, did I send that? Oh, no. And then I had to make the delivery to Holly Springs, which I did for the baby.
Very nice.
That was awesome. We have an OG hat baby now. So we're collecting the youths.
We got a beer fridge baby.
Beer fridge and a hat.
And a dad hat baby.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Which tracks because I'm big with babies.
You're on the same wavelength.
12 months and under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That tracks.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And old people love me. Old people and infants love me.
You do have some old you do have some old person tendencies when it comes to technology, so that makes sense. You're not quite on the level of when I look over at your phone and your text messages, it's the gigantic text yet.
Only because I can't figure out how to increase the size on my phone.
I should probably teach you how to do that.
That's the only reason.
Fair enough.
So, those are the two sets that I'm into, but I tell you what, I'm looking through some of these things and I'm like, oh, because we were in Charlotte, it's not really my fault.
What is not your fault?
We were like out of, like, some people are like, yes, I can come pick them up. Some people are like, hey, can you bring them to me? Which I do. I got no problem doing that.
I see.
And then some people are like, can you mail it to me? Housekeeping, is that the name of the city?
I believe that's the name of it.
Housekeeping? Yeah, we got someone there. We had a Virginia one that I sent off.
It's funny you mentioned that. You and I
Lucy out in Cali.
Oh, nice.
I got to send that one out.
Nice.
So, there's a lot.
I
struggle with some of these things.
You and I were goofing around earlier today while we were in the PNC Arena parking lot because little early housekeeping here. We went over to PNC Arena as they introduced the new president and CEOs, two separate people, to the media. You got Doug Warf, who used to work with the Carolina Hurricanes all the way back to when he was an unpaid intern when he was at NC State, and he's the president. And you got Brian Fork, who's coming over from the General Assembly to take over the CEO role. It all kind of tracks with how Tom Dundon seems to be structuring the Carolina Hurricanes. More collaborative. There's more things on the horizon, so they need to have individuals working on these things rather than one man doing it, who was Don Waddell. So you got Tulsky as the general manager, you've got Brian Fork as the CEO, and you have Doug Warf as the president, and everybody's working collaboratively with Tom Dundon. And we'll bring you conversations with both Doug Warf and Brian Fork on today's show. But while we were on the parking lot leaving, you were telling me about some old radio bits, right? And when you brought up as hokey or whatever, however it's pronounced in the part of the state, it made me think, if we cared more about SMU, Cal, and Stanford coming to the league, I would have dusted off a classic North Carolina radio/television bit, and we would have asked players and coaches from Cal, Stanford, and SMU to pronounce North Carolina names. So you hit him with the Mebane.
Yep.
And it's like, is that Mebane? No, it's not, good sir. It's Mebane. My personal favorite, Bahama.
That was the one on the top of my head.
Bahama's always a go-to. Is that Bahama? No, good sir. It's pronounced Bahama. And then my other favorite, is there like a Mount Rushmore of North Carolina towns that people mispronounce? It has to be on there. It is Coneta. Which is spelled Conto.
Well, we just did it, so yes.
But that was the bit that I wanted to do because there are no new ideas. I'm like, the last time I saw somebody do that bit was back in Brooklyn the first time the ACC tournament went. Yeah. And even before that happened, it had actually been done at the newspaper a couple years before that. So you dust it off every so often because there's a new audience for it.
Right.
So you had me thinking.
Yeah, we need to. I'm convinced now, based on all of my consumption of morning radio, which is really not a lot. I'm usually on the phone. That we have to do a "Tell Me Something Good" Bobby Bones style segment. Literally every morning radio show I listen to has some sort of "Tell Me Something Good." So
it might be time to go back to Dimitri's binder of radio bits.
Dimitri's been like gallivanting, or you had him on one of the days I was gallivanting.
Look, man,
South America.
Dude, I don't pretend to know Dimitri's schedule.
Yeah,
like I don't know where that dude is at any given moment.
Yeah,
he could be doing radio one day in his basement. He could be in South America the next day. He could be hanging out. He could be hanging out with Paul Feinbaum the next day. And next thing I know, he's up in New York. I don't know what Dimitri's doing, but Dimitri should be here tomorrow because we're going to tease a major announcement for the following week.
Thursday.
It's the next evolution of OG Triangle Media, which gets me to 5 stars only, positive vibes only. Throw 5 stars on that podcast app that you like. Give us a follow on YouTube. We appreciate that. Hit the like if you're watching on YouTube. That helps with the algorithm. Help us with the algorithm. You can support the corporate champions. We love that. But you can also help manipulate the algorithm on our behalf.
Do them both.
One quick Carolina Hurricanes note before we bring you those combos with Doug Warf and Brian Fork. Kind of Keynesy day. Eric Staal signed a 1-day contract with the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday. He officially retires as a Carolina Hurricane, the team that drafted him, and he's a Stanley Cup champion. And they're going to retire his number, so no other player will wear 12. There will be a ceremony at some point. My guess is this upcoming season, where they will honor Eric Staal, and I think it's appropriate. I mean, when you think about Eric Staal, you're going to have that association with the Carolina Hurricanes. But Staal. It's a legacy that is somewhat interesting on various levels, because on the ice, you're not going to find a better Carolina Hurricane, right? Walt Ruff, who works over at the Canes, put this out there on social media. Staal's ranks in Canes record book since the relocation. Goals, 322, first. Assists, 453, first. Points, 775, first. Games played, 909, that's first. Power play goals, 105, first. Power play points, 252, first. Hat tricks, 13 hat tricks, first. There's all sorts of other stats that he has in there. You know, he's represented the Canes more than anybody else in all-star games and everything else. But it's weird in that as we get further away from 2006, that Stanley Cup is kind of boiled down to his essence as Rod Brind'Amour. You see the image all the time. You see Rod holding up the cup. It's all part of the culture imagery that they use now with Rod Brind'Amour being the head coach. You also associate Cam Ward because of the Conn Smythe. What's wild, though, is that Staal was really damn productive during that Stanley Cup run.
Their leading scorer.
I mean, really freaking productive. But I think there's this visual association with Rod and the Stanley Cup. And then, unfortunately for Staal, the Canes went through their very bad, no good time that we don't want to talk about. And the organization kind of failed him as the face of the franchise, as the captain, the guy who was groomed to be the captain. Before he was shipped off and they went in a different direction. Now you have Jordan Staal, who is part of this culture rebuild with Rod and the Carolina Hurricanes, and he is the captain. So sandwiched in between, I almost think we kind of forget, and it's not his fault. It's really the organization's fault for just going through the wilderness for as long as they did with Staal and not kind of supporting him with talent around. And that's on ownership and everything else, bad coaching hires and everything else. So it is kind of a weird spot for Staal that he occupies, and I think it's really good that the Canes are bringing him back and giving Staal the proper due for his contributions to the Carolina Hurricanes on and off the ice, because he's also been very, very involved. You get the Staal Foundation, Family Foundation, everything else. He's very involved, and he's always been a good front-facing person for the team.
Do you want me to out you here or no about the text that you sent me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you think Eric Staal is the best player in the Canes history?
No, I don't think he's the best player. I mean, that's subjective.
Okay.
I mean, you can look at the stats, but if I think about the best Carolina Hurricane, I'm associating that with Rod Brind'Amour. Now,
the interesting part about that, though,
you could also make the argument that in terms of impact on the Carolina Hurricanes on the ice, you probably go to Jordan Staal more so than Eric Staal. In that case, I'm just saying, but again, it's a complicated conversation.
I think Eric Staal is the best player to ever play for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay.
In this regard, he spent his prime years with the franchise. As good as Rod was, that wasn't Rod Brind'Amour in his prime. Rod in his prime was with the Flyers.
I know.
You know?
I know.
And that's what also annoys me about the Hall of Fame conversation.
I know.
Is they never give the guy credit for what he did in Philadelphia.
I understand.
And then obviously Ron Francis in his signing the free agent deal, giving legitimacy to the franchise, those were obviously his golden years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And 02, again, he was the captain of that team. He was the standard bearer of that team. Rod was really good on that team in 02 as well, obviously. But when I think of Francis, I don't think of him as a Hurricane. I think of his best years being both in Hartford and then the ridiculous combination of him being in Pittsburgh, where you have one of the top 5 point producers in the history of the game, and he wasn't even the top center on his own team.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it makes total sense.
Give me a break.
Makes total sense, right?
Like the teams he won, the teams that he was on with the Penguins, where they won the cup, they were in that. If it was college football, we'd be having a lot of conversations about the 01 Miami Hurricanes. That's the 91-92 Penguins. Okay.
No, I'm with you on that.
So I don't think of him as a Kane. I think of Eric Staal, and I know, I get it. I got his thing up right now. Rangers, Minnesota Wild, Buffalo for a hot minute, Montreal in the bubble, and then Florida that last year, where I would have loved to have seen him put his name again on the Stanley Cup. But to me,
he's a Kane.
Not only is he a Kane, but he spent his best years with that Carolina Hurricanes. And I thought Luke DeCock did a tremendous job with his column yesterday about Eric Staal and about some of the things that he did. And here's one that I had forgotten. He's the only player in franchise history with a 100-point season.
Right.
You know, you and I talked yesterday about the Carolina Hurricanes and the players that they need more from. Sebastian Aho is on his way to rewriting some of their record books and matching Eric Staal. Now, of course, a big part of Eric Staal's legacy is he was the leading scorer on that team in 06. And for my money, was actually the best player on that team. Now,
totally with you.
Rod was the unquestioned leader.
That's the thing.
And had moments in that particular playoff run that it could not have happened without Rod Brindamore. Totally and completely get why we could have the sepia tone haze of what that team was about. But to me, Eric Staal was the best player. And, you know, that's where I want to see Sebastian Aho to get to. You know, we talk a lot about, Zibanejad had 150 points or whatever the hell it is. And you're like, well, why? And now it gets to who you're playing with, of course.
Yeah.
And if you see Svechnikov elevate his game and Natchez elevate his game, you will see Aho get to that 100-point barrier. But I think as long as Eric has that mark, I think you have to give him a little bit of credit for what he did.
Look, all I'm saying is what I'm trying to get across here is that Staal occupies a weird point in Kane's history now that we've got a lot more history with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Agree.
And I want to be abundantly clear with what I'm trying to say here, in that we can all recognize that Staal was the best player on the team in terms of production on the ice in his prime years. But there's a weird, what do you associate with the team as we get further away, which is unfair to Staal, because this is where I'll give Staal a lot of credit. When the team was not a franchise that was discussed on TSN, when it was not discussed in the podcast circles as being a player and various other things, it was almost like the team was dismissed, pat on the head, that's cute.
Yeah.
Okay. 02 was cute. 06 was, all right, you know what? Crazy, you won a Stanley Cup, but you look what happened after the fact. You didn't make the playoffs. You didn't get back again until 2009. So there's a really weird time frame in there with the Carolina Hurricanes under the Carmanos ownership that really didn't do. You okay there?
Something just hit me.
You okay? I think so. Gotta take a little break here.
We are taking a hockey
break.
Oh,
you know what? That's a very good point.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
Big thanks to our friends over at Happy and Hale. Download the app today. Get those goodies. Get your birthday, all that fun stuff. More importantly, you can order ahead and have it ready for you when you drop by Happy and Hale, whether it's at North Hills, out in North Raleigh, out in Durham. And of course, when the hockey season's back, you can check out their cart at PNC Arena. I'm going to drop by later this week to try that Burger Bowl. I know you've been talking that up, or at least some of our listeners have been talking that up. To wrap my point on Staal before we move on to housekeeping, where Staal deserves more credit as we look back, as you said, the sepia tone of history. Staal was the first recognizable Kane. Staal was the first one that made the GQ cover shoot, right? He was the one, when you look at, look at this draft class and all the players. I think there's only 3 players left from that pretty monumental draft class that Staal was from, right? That are still playing. He's the one that you associate with the Canes. And obviously you got the Stanley Cup with it. So from a breakthrough perspective, to give the Canes legitimacy, to give somebody with a face, with a team, and here's one of the best players in the league and happened to be playing for this squad, Staal was really, really good, and he all did it in front of us. I mean, dude's 18, man. So it's kind of these, that's the other thing about Staal that is different than other players that we've seen. And maybe that's why you see, Seth Jarvis can run because of Jordan Staal or because of Eric Staal, and watching him get drafted by the team, grow up with the team, win with the team, and then eventually have that hard conversation of, oh man, we got to say bye because this is a tough, tough business, right? So the people who ride for Svechnikov, the people who ride for Jarvis, you're seeing all this kind of stuff. The real first, the real first mover with that was Staal, Same with Sebastian Aho too. Of course, what they have to do is put their name on the Stanley Cup like Staal did and really produce, 6 like he did.
Yeah, I remember Eric living with Ron Francis.
Right.
That first year.
Right.
And I also remember him being at a Duke game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was actually the year of the lockout. And he, of course, he's 6'5" and he's standing up, and you could kind of point him out, pick him out of a crowd. He looks across the way, he sees me on press row, because he'd only known me from
hockey stuff. Right?
Like
okay, context.
I hate to bring it to you, I don't think Eric was reading the paper, but he saw me in the locker room, and sure. Ronnie liked me, so he knew that. Oh, okay, Ronnie likes this guy, or we're okay. So I just remember him seeing me at Cameron, being like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Well, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I got tickets," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome, man."
Check it out.
He's like, "Do you get to sit there for every game?" And I was like, I mean, not necessarily here, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where they put us. Sure. I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Housekeeping.
Big thanks to Enovana. Check them out online at ENOVANA.com. Green Cleaning Solutions.
If you have messes that you mentioned, trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
I'm going to do it.
What do you? Oh, you got the calendar here. While you're looking at the calendar, reminder: we are about to hit August. That means we're about to hit the month of the podcast festival. It's brought to you by Breeze Through. Check them out, breezethrough.com. We thank them for being the presenting sponsor for the podcast festival. It'll be us, Shutdown Fullcast, Hand of the Dirt. We're going to be giving away bourbon. Debbie Yow's going to be in the house. It's going to be a lot of fun. You never know.
We might have talked some of the Hurricanes management coming to see us that day.
We might have.
Yeah, they got a community outreach program.
Are we community outreach?
Hayes definitely qualifies.
Yes.
Supporting the arts.
So go to Rialto.com to buy your tickets today. And of course, go support our presenting sponsor at Breeze Through. Again, check them out, breezethrough.com. What else we got cooking
here?
All
right, in August, we have 2 events right now on the books. Okay. In addition to the podcast Palooza, as I like to call it. We are live at the Wyndham August 7th.
Okay.
So that's 1 week from today?
Yes.
Yes. So next week we'll be down Sedgefield Country Club, the real home of the ACC, where it was born. Maybe we'll bring some of our props so that everyone knows what that life is all about.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Big thanks to Rob Goodman for taking care of us. Jackson and I played in their media day. That course was crazy wet and crazy difficult. It's going to be really humbling for your boy to go watch the pros just destroy it.
Yeah.
And then August 15th, that's a Thursday, our Sleek Fleet OG Live will be at the Happy Inhale.
Awesome.
On Six Forks. And the only other thing I have on the calendar is in a question mark, because I don't want to come back down from this cloud. August 27th is Bush at Red Hat.
Okay.
I feel like we got to go over to Crank Arm. All right. Little pregame action. Don't ever even go in the building. Just chill out at Crank Arm.
Yeah.
And wait for glycerine and
Listerine.
I got a machine head.
Mushy head. Yeah, I mean, if it works with my schedule, if I'm not washing my hair that day, I'll try to get out there.
August is jam packed.
It is. It really, really is. Also, with a new month, you know what that means? Two Roosters has the new ice cream. Check them out, tworoosters.com. Did you get a preview?
I did.
Did you buy all the Shaboomy Blue before they put it away?
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I failed you.
Well, how did you fail me?
They had a peach and ginger cookie in the month of July.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you know this.
You like peach.
I love peach.
I know.
I had it yesterday. Phenomenal.
Okay.
Phenomenal. I might have to go today. Even when I texted Jared, he was like, did you just like wipe out all the end of the month stuff? I was like, no, yeah. But they had this midnight movie theater popcorn, which was popcorn, ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
It was popcorn Heath Bar, M&M, and there was one other thing, maybe pretzels. There was one other thing in there that was like it was like this sweet and salty combo.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And I was like,
I'm gonna have to go get that.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna, yeah, okay. I'm gonna,
so that was
you
the
sold
pint.
me on that.
That was the pint I got yesterday.
All right.
So that'll probably tide me over till Thursday when it was like a tea. It's almost like an Arnold Palmer type thing that they'll have, I think is one of them. And then there was like a cookie dough with like a tea biscuit. Like, yeah, they got some good ones coming.
Bring the stretchy pants.
Thursday, baby. Thursday.
Big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority as well. They're coming out to my house for making sure the mosquitoes aren't getting too active. We had a lot of rain recently. I know my grass has popped up. That's active time for the critters. So you can contact them at bugsbite.com. You can bundle and save when you go Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the new president of the Carolina Hurricanes. He is Doug Warf. Welcome back, Doug.
Joe, thanks, man. Excited to be back.
Yeah, you were talking about all the things, the community that is Raleigh. It's a bigger town, it's a bigger city, but everybody has some sort of connection and whatnot. And I was having that thought while you were up there talking, and I was like, yeah, no, he's right, because you and I were both in Nelson Hall back at NC State back in the day, and now here we are, still kind of in this building, just in completely different roles, which is kind of neat, and also kind of like a testament to what the team has built over time and why you want to be a part of this.
I think that's always been the fun thing about Raleigh is that it has that big city feel, but they're just the small town aspects. And, I think you and I also crossed paths here as we were both kind of starting our interning phase.
Oh, yeah. There were times.
Out what the hell we were doing.
There were times when I had a mini disc and a mic to get audio for AP networks and Metro networks and various other things.
His terrible updates.
Yeah, all those terrible updates. And
so
you were hustling, man. You're probably doing promotions, ticketing. You've done just about everything now. So it's appropriate that you're the president.
Yeah, it's been fun. That's been the first day walking around. I had to stop saying I worked there. That was my desk. I was in that office. I think I'd counted like 12 places I had sat and worked. And that's been fun. There's a lot of people here who are new. There's a handful who were here when I was here. But the history is here and the feelings are here. And there's certain parts that just kind of come back like muscle memory. You didn't even remember them, but when you start to do them, it's like, okay, yeah, I remember this piece. I know how this works. And that was part of being 16 years here. And as you know, as the grind was there, Joe, at the paper, same type of thing. Those are long days, long hours. You put in a lot of sweat, and it kind of comes right back.
When you think about some of the things you dealt with the first time around, you're trying to get people in this building. The challenge is kind of fundamentally different now, where you're trying to not only keep people, but also improve their experience here. And you talked during the press conference about some of those things, even, from the Blink-182 concert and merchandise lines and stuff like that. It's one thing to have these grand ideas about what the outside of the building is eventually going to look like or what the inside is going to eventually look like. What do you think of for this year where you sit down at your desk, your new desk, and you say, okay, this is the one seashell I can throw back into the ocean and save and really improve the experience for fans?
That's a great question. One, I think it's a bit of a dream where we are today, right? If you would have painted me this picture 8-9 years ago, I'm not sure I would have believed it.
Right.
So Tom coming in, making the commitment, being a cap team every year, and then making the commitment to inside the arena, things that are needed, he says yes. You have to make a case, you have to talk about it. I think the big piece for what we're going to try to do this year is just continue to deepen the roots with the community. I think there's been part of that where as the team has gotten strong and great, you can sometimes lose sight of certain factors of what you're trying to do outside the arena with community partners. And I think we're going to try to deepen that. I think inside the arena, the team continues to push forward on the entertainment side. I think we're trying to always look at speed of service from a concession standpoint. I think we're always trying to look at the entertainment side inside the bowl. So, Chris Greenlee, Sam Heinsohn, Christine, that team is always trying to think of new things and push. and Tom wants to keep pushing the envelope on those things too. So it's a little tough to come in late July because they're doing a lot of planning already and got a lot of stuff already on the rails. But to shake some of that up and really push forward.
I feel I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of my number one suggestions for this building.
Okay.
You've already started it. Now, see, now you're not just the marketing guy anymore. You're not just an unpaid intern anymore. You have the big hat now.
Yeah,
okay. The sections in the corner have new seats, and my fat ass can actually fit in them.
Okay.
The rest of that lower bowl, man. Like, I'm serious. I would be pissed if I paid $2,000 a ticket to sit
turned in a corner.
Yeah, no, not in the corner. I'm talking about most of the lower bowl was constructed. Sorry. Most of the lower bowl was constructed in a contest to see we have to have more seats than North Carolina, and it's like I just want the building to be comfortable.
By the way, that's a true story. We're not making that up. That's a real thing.
But that corner, like I said, I sat for the Journey concert.
Yeah.
And I even texted him. I go, I fit in the seat. These seats are great. He was like, what?
All right, first I'm going to walk with you. I want to see.
I'll show you where the new seats are.
Show me where you like the
because
seats.
you know what? For hockey games now, I love coming to the third floor.
Yeah.
That's where I go. I go sit upstairs because all of those seats have been replaced.
The club is also a good spot.
Well, I can't run there, but we got fired on a random Wednesday, sir. But upstairs, I can sit in comfort in that one corner. I think it's 109 maybe.
Okay.
I can sit with comfort. But man, those other parts of this lower bowl, I'm like, you need to blow that shit up and do it over.
I haven't had, so I need to see it, Joe, because I haven't had that.
But you're also skinny, like you're crazy
I'm not
skinny.
Yeah, I get that I'm like average small guy. I get that. So I'll take a look with you. I think the arena development, there's going to be a ton here, right? If you're looking at $300 million, we're looking at anything and everything when we're working on that. So are the seats in play? Possibly. I think everything is somewhat in play in that regard.
Okay, good. I'm registering my official suggestion box.
You have to remember too. I've been on this for like 3 weeks. We have a pretty big Centennial Authority meeting tomorrow. So
do you?
Nice. Want to see how those things go?
Okay,
and then go from there.
These might be more questions for Brian Fork, the CEO. But from the press conference, it's very clear. Much like Tom wants all these things to be collaborative, some of this other stuff is going to be collaborative as well. So, what is your role on the baseball thing? That's the big shiny object. I think that was the big shiny object for today as well.
Yeah.
I think we understand what the renovation plans are, and there's timetables and everything else. But the shiny object is this baseball team that Tom we talked to at the beginning of last summer or the beginning of last season. He's all in on it, but it all seems very nascent at this point. What's your role in these conversations?
That's a good question. I think, as Brian said in the press conference, there is some of this where he's focused a lot on what's going on around the building. He's helping me, obviously, within the building. I'm helping him. I think when we initially talked about it, it's kind of an 85-15.
Sure.
And so my small piece on the baseball side, I did one season with the Carolina Mudcats. I think that gets me just a ton of credit with MLB, probably.
It should.
Yeah, that big year back in 2001 or whatever it was. And what a summer that was. I think we're all trying to line up, especially the corporate partners. There's going to be key pieces of this where you've got to have the city, you've got to have the county, you've got to have NC State, you've got to have all these partners come in addition to the state. We're going to have to line those pieces up. We're going to have to line up a commitment to ticket sales, and we're going to have to line up a commitment from corporate partners. Mm-hmm. So we're in the very early stages of looking at how that plays out. But it's fun. And I do think, I'll say this from the outside, I always thought, kind of like you, where Tom makes those statements, is this something he's just talking about? He's serious about it. And as you guys have heard, Tom is constantly on the phone. He's constantly working ideas and calling people. So this is not something he's going to let sit idle. If we have a shot, it's going to be because he pushes it.
So the other question I have related to baseball, population takes care of itself. I can read some new blurb about how X amount of people are moving to the Triangle on a daily basis, and there's new construction for housing. Shout out to Hometown Realty. There's new construction everywhere, all that kind of stuff, right? Apartment buildings going up everywhere. The one, and I guess this is where you actually put your college management degree to use, and I never did. What is the market? Do we have the market, like corporate market, for a baseball team? Because it's always been explained to me is that with all the universities, which are treated as pro sports, along with the Carolina Hurricanes, we can throw NCFC and the Courage in there as well, there's just a lot of spread thin for what we have corporate-wise here. So what is the myth and the reality of corporate support for a Major League Baseball team?
Yeah, I think one, you're great at the corporate partnership plugs. So if anybody out there is thinking about doing a corporate partnership with the OG, you should do it. As a former corporate partner, fantastic.
Corporate champion.
Corporate champion. You had a cute name. I heard it recently. Sorry, botched that. Retake.
It's okay.
I think one, Raleigh's grown a ton, right? So I think the challenge with Raleigh compared to some other larger markets is you're playing with a little bit more of the mid-tier companies. You got to piece a lot of those together to make it work. I think you do here.
Okay.
I think what Major League Baseball brings that has an attraction, it'll be a statewide and region-wide attraction. And I think Major League Baseball would bring in Charlotte, it brings in the Triad, it brings in Wilmington. And when you start to look into the Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered in those places, I think we're starting to get them into hockey, but I did that 20 years ago when you try to sell those folks on hockey and they're saying, prove it first. Well, we're proving that now, and you're starting to see more of those folks come in as partners. I think they're a lot quicker to come in to Major League Baseball, and I think to make the tickets work for Major League Baseball, you'd see a lot more travel from other regions of the state to come here to see games.
Okay.
So I think that to me it takes this from a triangle thing and makes it more of a regional play for sure.
Gotcha.
Do you have to include Charlotte?
You have to.
Okay.
We love Charlotte. Listen, I love
work on those pronouns, Doug.
I do love Charlotte.
You do.
I do. Sorry, good point.
They include us for the Panthers.
Nothing.
No, I mean the Panthers. They clearly the Panthers are part of that, but that's the NFL. And I guess you've probably seen this struggle a little bit too with the Carolina Hurricanes in making the Hurricanes more than just a triangle type thing. I mean, that's always my curiosity. It's like we don't care that much about the Hornets in this market because they haven't been good.
Yeah, if they're good, it changes.
Maybe.
I think it does.
Okay.
Listen, if the Hornets made 7 straight playoffs, if they'd made the conference finals a couple years in a row, people here care more, without a doubt.
In your defense, the folks over at WFNZ in Charlotte have asked me questions about the Hurricanes way more than they ever did 10 years ago, and that's the reason why.
And I'll say this, going back to our days with the Checkers, one, still good friends with Tara, happy for them and what they just accomplished and kind of starting to sell their team. But that started to bridge that a little bit. I just did business in Charlotte with our company. We opened some stuff in Charlotte. You make it a thing if you bring it up. Otherwise, I think they want to be part of the state and the region. I'm from South Carolina. I was born in South Carolina, so I always think of myself as a Carolinian. I think if we're going to accomplish these big things, we can't look at it just as a triangle.
Don't you dare put another flag on top of this arena, sir.
I kind of like that, though. You gotta, right? If we do like the multi-state thing on the sleeve, is that not good?
Triggering Giglio right now. He can't stand that South Carolina stuff. He's over it. He's over it already. All right. So as a Disney adult, you know this about me. As a Disney adult,
this is what a transition.
Save it.
Yeah.
Save it, Joe. Yeah.
Good cop, Joe. Good cop.
As a Disney adult, I have 40 some odd years of seeing what Disney says they're going to put in the park with these amazing renderings, and you see all these happy families, and Epcot's going to be this entire thing, and then you get the final product. So now that you've been here a couple of days, and you and Brian and Tom have gone over what all of this is going to look like, what can fans see immediately in the near future that they understand, okay, this building's really going to change? Because as much as there's been small changes, new ribbon boards, a new scoreboard, the bones of the building are largely the same when I came to see NC State and Georgia play their first basketball game in 1999.
Why don't we do another podcast after the Centennial Authority approves what can happen inside the building? There's a lot of this where this is not just our decision on that. We're partners in this. So I think from talking with Philip Isley, the chair, Jeff Merritt, a lot of the board members there, they're excited about what's happening. That was part of Tom's commitment to the areas that they're going to make a commitment to improving the arena. There's nothing that's immediate, right? So there's nothing that will happen before the start of this hockey season from that standpoint. Might be small things where we're trying to improve speed of service at concession stands, but there's no grandiose thing that's going to be built in the next 3 months before the season starts. All of that, if approved, would start next summer. And some of the tough parts about that, I think, not tough, is that it'll be a lot of it, you have to make space first. A lot of that will be more stuff on this arena level where you're trying to make space to house things so that you can then create new spaces that then create new spaces on other levels. There's a trickle up effect on that, but it'll be noticeable impact. And we've had great meetings with Boo, with the NC State team. Their approach has always been, we need things for different people, right?
Yeah.
This can't just be a VIP piece. This has to be the third level fan gets a big change too. I would say in the proposals that are coming out, there's a lot of that.
You keep mentioning speed of concessions.
Yep.
Is that a matter of a point of sale change? Is it just more stuff so it spreads people out? The last time I was in a modern, like an up-to-date building was in Detroit last October. Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
It was an awakening for him.
that was a new building, and Joe can back me up on this. I had texted Joe and Tom Dundon, like, if you could just take this and put it here, that would be amazing. Easier said than done. So what is it that's going to lead to a better customer experience? Is it just more options, or is there something else I'm missing here?
Well, let's go back to your adult Disney fandom, right? The big part about the app is the lines, and their goal is to try to reduce lines everywhere they can, right? The difference might be at Disney, I think they want a little bit of a line. It's kind of like the bar. You want to have a little bit of an attraction. Tom would be completely fine if there were no lines anywhere.
Okay.
And I think that's what he challenges Brian and I with a bit is just, hey, how do we get people in faster, right? Is it better security checks? Is it better security scanners? How are we doing the scanners on tickets, right? You're breaking down every piece of that step to say, where can we get quicker on this? You go to concession stands. Are there ways that there can either be self-checkout or there can be faster places that are grab and go throughout the arena? I think we've seen that. I think you need to still speed up the checkout portion of that to make it still work. So we're analyzing all of those pieces. Some of that might come in before the season starts, but that is where he's always looking at things.
You talk about security. That's interesting you bring up the security. I went to the Megan Thee Stallion show a couple weeks back. And the lines to get in because you got to take all the stuff out your pockets.
Yep.
And you get reminded, when do I have a press pass and when I don't have a press pass?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And when you don't have a press pass and you have to take everything out of your pocket, you're standing in the line, everything else, that process can be a little slow. It's like going to the airport. I'll get back to Disney. To get into the park, I don't have to take anything out of my pocket. They've got these scanners that I guess we're at the technology point now where I can just walk through like a scene from Total Recall, and they know everything that's on me. Is that something that's in play? I mean, that's also probably expensive, I'm guessing. So how do you balance that?
It's not cheap, but I think Tom is open to anything that works there. Okay. Challenge. So 3 weeks on the job, I'll tell you how this will show you how much I've already researched
answers,
this.
Doug. I know you've been here 3 weeks.
Listen,
you want answers.
Here's the thing. I already know the major players that do that.
Yeah.
I already know the major pain points on why that is more of a challenge for us. The NHL has requirements as how strong those have to be set.
I see. Okay.
They still set off a lot of anything small in your pocket. So then you still have to, the key term here, Joe, I've learned is divest. You still have to divest your pockets. The key is making sure that you don't have to divest walking through.
I see.
That's what takes the time.
Okay.
And then it doesn't reduce staff, which is what some people think, because you still have to have people there to take them off to the side. So it is about speed. And I'll give Tom Embry and his team, the security team here, a lot of credit. They've been working on that every year. And you can kind of see it if you come in, especially the south entrance. They spread you out more to get you through the security process because it's not usually the ticket scanning that's the slow piece. It is more the security piece. They've added more places to do that. They've tried to spread that out as much as possible, open more doors to get you through quicker. It still is a pain point, but that's what Tom is looking at intently. And then anything at the concession stands where you move quicker through checkout is a key piece. So we're analyzing that every day.
Joe's got that grin on his face. Before we say goodbye, do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm chuckling.
I'm dead to Joe after saying South Carolina. So.
Oh, no, I moved past that one. Doug, we have big plans for you. You just don't know it.
Well, we appreciate what you do. So
Doug's like, oh, boy.
No, I love it. And your coverage and what you guys have been doing. Joe knows that I'm a listener, so I enjoy the podcast. I think you guys have done a great job.
Thank you.
I met with Joe when you guys were making the pivot. I think I actually gave advice. Maybe you sit a little bit and let people want you before you jump right in. Joe said nope.
Joe disagreed. Giglio disagreed. So I think
it was the right move. You nailed it. Right? You nailed it. You did a great job. I think what you guys have done covering the Canes has been fun. I've enjoyed it. So thank you guys. We're here to work with you.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. Doug Warf, new president. That sounds
actual state grad doing something.
Rolls right off. I mean, it's appropriate that we're in the
fuckers. Whatever. Here's Doug.
Okay, we're in the Wolfpack room, man. It's all coming together. Doug, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys.
Big thanks to Longleaf Swine for being a corporate champion. Check them out, longleafswine.com. Yes, the brisket is phenomenal. In fact, my in-laws took the kids to Longleaf the other day while we were running around doing crazy stuff, summer jam and everything else. And after having all that grapefruit radler at Crank Arm, let me tell you what really, really hit.
Oh, did you go?
No. They brought the stuff back home. A quarter of a burger that my older son didn't eat. I'm like, that was
Smash,
one bite.
Baby.
That was done. One bite. And then Jacob had the brisket, had a couple slices of that. I made tacos with that, by the way.
I feel like you're reading my mind. The one thing I forgot on the calendar.
Yes.
Tailgate at the Longleaf Swine on the 29th before the state game.
So check them out, longleafswine.com.
We'll be doing the show from there too.
Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer for being a corporate champion.
I should say I'll be doing the show from there. You're in hockey dad mode today, right?
Be on my way to Hershey for that. Yeah. So if I get any tickets, you know who do I contact?
Not hockey dad. Joe Ovies, general manager.
No. Team manager.
Team manager.
That comes with a pay grade upgrade if it's general manager.
Oh.
But I'm not getting paid.
Team manager.
It is what it is. I got a jacket.
You get a jacket.
WH.lawyer. Again, check them out. Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. And of course, our friends at Nature's Relief. Nature's Relief Hemp Store is the website. Spell that RELEAF, hempstore.com. They've got the colas. They've got the pre-rolled. They got gummies. If you want to put some THCA in it, they got it.
There.
It is there at Nature's Relief Hemp Store. But they also have some other options as well. It's not just about the vibes. It's about things like cutting back on anxiety. CBD is a big help for things like joint pain and various other ailments. And if you got questions, they've got answers. All you got to do is go to naturesreliefhempstore.com.
Summer hours, Thursday through Saturday over there on Western Boulevard, 10 a.m. through 10 p.m. Go check them out. It's just a great spot.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the new CEO of the Carolina Hurricanes. He is Brian Fork. Again, another Wolfpack guy. We're in the Wolfpack room, so it just kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Works out.
It works out that way.
Glad to be here.
All right. Since you at their press conference, you talked about your affinity for NC State, and there was a moment where Joe and I looked at each other when we were talking about the in and the out, the experience, and the parking. And this has been something that a lot of NC State fans who've gotten used to tailgating at Carter Finley Stadium have been kind of worried about. So anytime the renovation stuff comes up, how much do you hear, or how much do you have to kind of calm people down about what this means for the area and what it means for tailgating culture that a lot of NC State football fans care about?
So as far as what I've heard from other people, I've only been on the job for a week and a half. So most of what I've heard as a fan, sports fan, observer before I got here. So maybe it'll change a little bit now that I'm in this role. But so I'm an NC State tailgater. I have a spot. I go on, and I know when my time is to go in and click the green parking spaces. And I'm not going to tell you where my spot is because it's pretty good, and I don't want somebody else to go get it next year.
Yeah, Giglio will tailgate too.
But a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me 3 or 4 years ago, do you want a development around the arena from a tailgater perspective, I would have said, no. That's a bad thing. We need those parking spots. The parking spots go away. Other people's spots get moved around. I may get shoved back, et cetera. The more I've thought about it, watched the Centennial Authority process the last couple of years, and more so watch the changing landscape of college athletics, I am now convinced that doing this development, if done in the right way, is a positive thing overall for NC State football. Mm-hmm. I mean, as you guys know, there are people that will come tailgate and eventually go into the stadium and go to the game, not necessarily because they're a football fan. I mean, most of the people are football fans, but there are some that come out there just because they like to tailgate. I think if you build a bunch of restaurants and some bars and other sort of sports bar type venues out here, you're going to bring a whole nother clientele of people out here that like to go do that before the game and then also go in. And there's still going to be plenty of room to tailgate. So the lots, the sort of paved or not paved, the grass Carter Finley lots, the gravel lots, nothing's happening to those. So those places where you got extended parking, that will all be there. And then changes to the lots around the arena are at least 2 years away, and they're phased in. And so anything that happens, so for example, you're going to go whatever building you may build first out here, whether it's a restaurant, a venue, concert venue, something like that, you have to replace the parking first. I mean, the development agreement has a scaled down way over time of how surface parking and other parking has to be preserved around the arena. So if this goes forward, will there eventually be some parking decks built into that? Yes. We are looking at a variety of creative concepts to make tailgating feasible around there, maybe some replacement lots in other places that build in a little bit of extra tailgating. And then the development agreement, in fact, requires a sort of tailgate zone, which is not huge, but I think it's 5 acres right between the arena and the stadium. So will it be exactly like it is now? No, of course not. Will it add other elements and be designed in a way that I think in the new era of NIL and however college athletics evolves, is it good that there's going to be a fancy hotel here that maybe recruits' parents can stay in, walk over to the game? Will alums and fans that don't live here stay in the hotel, go over? Will people want to come eat, walk over, eat after the game instead of getting in the traffic jam? I think all in, it's going to be a net benefit for state football.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a good tailgate spot, and I like to tell people not everyone has a great tailgate spot. Like, we're not all that lucky, right? So when you have that, you think, well, everyone has this, so we have to protect this, as opposed to, I say this all the time. I said this to Don Waddell. I've said this to Tom Dundon. I went to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a setup right there. Obviously, they're on campus, but across the street, they have hotels, they have mixed use, they have a whole thing, just as you mentioned. And I think it's a really great setup. No, you're slipping. You're definitely slipping, because we know Doug, right? So you can kind of anticipate what Doug's going to say. We don't know you. We don't know you. So I'm taking notes over here. I'm excited. I'm in press conference mode, right? So two things that you said. I mean, listen, we don't need to tell you how good you are, right? You got a whole vision here. You got an idea. You're the new CEO, man. That's fucking awesome. We're allowed to swear on this program, okay? That's awesome. But you lost me on two things, right? You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
You said you went to Davidson. And you said, I'm a State fan. You used the word NC State basketball and fun coming to this building. Sir, when has NC State basketball been fun in this building? Not DC, not the Final Four. Kevin knows I love him. But I do not equate the word fun with NC State basketball in this building.
It's had its moment.
Heartache. My insides ripped out.
There were a couple times.
Chandler Parsons?
Were you here
I was here for Chandler Parsons.
Marcus
the ball, I sit in the corner. I saw the ball.
No.
I could tell the flight path.
No, you were here for Chandler Parsons?
Oh, yeah.
And you still used the word fun?
I was really sad.
Okay, so that was one, giving you a hard time, obviously. But then you hit the bingo card, man. You were like, yeah, I'm a Canes fan. I've been a Canes fan.
Oh,
anywhere.
You're right. I got you. Yes.
I even went to the Greensboro Games. That's number one on the Canes fan bingo board. You got a kink shame.
No, let me give you another one, though.
Because the way people talk about Greensboro, you think it was sold out every night,
there, man.
and there was no black curtain.
I really was.
So you were there.
I went to Davidson,
I was actually in school at Davidson at the time.
There we go.
And so we drove up. One of my roommates was from Boston, and we drove up and we went to those two playoff games.
Those are my two notes. You said all these unbelievable things about development. Greensboro.
I noticed that
and NC State being fun. I was like,
what was the extra innings game between Carolina and NC State at the DBAT?
16 innings.
There was 16 inning game.
Close.
I did not go to that.
You were okay.
I did not go to that.
Because the way people talked about that one, it was like, man, they had people out the door, standing room only, but it was working that way.
Well, let me ask you a serious question now that I've given you a hard time here. I keep hearing words about plans, and obviously there's the Centennial Authority, and you, as I've learned with Joe has different people skills than I do. You got to work with the General Assembly. You have your people skills. Throw mine into the gutter, okay? I can glad hand and peddle some ice cream, but we're not on your level, right? It has to, though, frustrate you a little bit that you're here, and I hear you talking, number one, about a $300 million renovation. I can't believe that's actually going to be the price. And number two, it sounds like a little bit of a glacial pace if the construction's not going to start until 26 outside. that has to be slightly frustrating because you get to a job and you're like, okay,
let's go.
I'm ready to do this. Yeah. Here's phase one. Here's phase, and I know there's a big meeting tomorrow, and I know there's a lot of layers to this thing. But as a little bit of a go-getter and as someone who has made things happen behind the scenes, does it feel as slow as it kind of appears from us on the outside when I hear it won't be next summer, but it'll be the next summer? That's 26.
For sure. I mean, on the building front in the arena, it would be a lot easier if we could just pop up and build a new arena.
Yes.
But, I mean...
like Orlando or any of the other places who've already done that.
And that would cost a lot more than we have. And the reality is that's the amount of funding that we have, $300 million. We've got a building right here. We're not going to build another building behind it in the parking lot and then tear this one down.
Atlanta
If we wanted to do that and had the money to do it, we could go do it and everything would be gleaming, nice, and brand new. But if you're going to renovate an operating building, that's really how you have to do it. Mm-hmm. So, you got to do it pieces at a time along the way. You can't, it just takes too long. So, yeah, that's a little bit frustrating, but it's kind of the reality of where we are.
Let's talk baseball. Speaking of glacial pace, I'm going to air my frustration in that there are a lot of folks who really want baseball here. And I think some folks are a little too cavalier about what it's going to take to bring baseball here. And there seemed to be some sentiment that there was going to be some kind of baseball news at today's press conference. And what I thought was interesting was you reiterating, we're really in the early planning stages of all this. All we know is that Tom would like a baseball team. So just to kind of clear the air as to where things are and be a little bit more definitive in this process, having just come onto this job, and we can happen. I'm guessing you also have a general idea of where this thing is given your previous job in the General Assembly, because all this stuff is tied together. Where exactly are we in this process?
I think the first thing is, is there even going to be any expansion teams?
Yes.
That has certainly been hinted at by Major League Baseball. It seems like it'd be after the next CBA, but we don't really know.
I'm going to go ahead and editorialize here because the only way for the owners to make more money is by expansion fees at this point. They've tapped out on television. They've got gambling. The next way for owners to increase their value is by having expansion fees.
Their schedule's also screwed up too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of infrastructure stuff with baseball where expansion makes a lot of sense. So I see that on the horizon. And clearly, this entity wants in on that. So that's what my curiosity is.
Yeah, I think that, so if, let's just assume for the sake of discussion that there will be expansion teams.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that have to go into that for any city that wants a team. The most difficult piece of that is you got to find an ownership group. Like if Tom was not interested in this or wasn't interested in putting it in Raleigh and you just sort of had a grassroots effort here, or you had groups in the business community that said, let's try to attract
friends of the
baseball.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have an ownership group. How do you piece all that together? That's a really, really big number, whatever it is, to pay that expansion fee and then fund a team. Baseball's really, really expensive. So I think that's the hardest step. Step one is having the owner who's interested in putting it in your place. So the hardest piece, but probably the most difficult piece is there. So that sort of gets us in the game. I think we also have a great market. One would guess they might put a team out west and a team somewhere in the east. The team that's going to be in the east, does it make sense to go somewhere in the northeast or Midwest? Probably not. Add another team in Florida? Probably not. You're limiting your choices that way. There's only a handful of markets out there. North Carolina as a state is growing. Raleigh doesn't already have a professional football team and an NBA team. Do we cross-cannibalize with college? I don't know. That's a market analysis to figure out. But as far as are the possibilities there, yes. But then where we are in the process, we don't have the Hurricanes or our organization haven't taken any steps to go solicit corporate sponsors. We haven't taken any steps to go find a place to put the team. We haven't talked to anybody about that. But it's a couple years away, and those are things that we'll start brainstorming. What should you do if you want to take the next steps? Those steps have not been taken yet, but that is one of the things on the agenda is, okay, well, what do we do now? How do we get it organized? Who do we need to bring into the group to look at that?
And the only follow-up I would have to that is the last time we talked to Dundon on record was in a beer cave. Well, it was back in October, right?
With the baby. The baby's like 9 months old now.
I know.
We took a picture with the baby yesterday or Sunday.
Doing this a while now.
Time was like, oh my gosh, that's how the world works.
But when I thought that Tom had left a little wiggle room with where, but both you and Doug seemed a little bit more adamant about Raleigh or Wake County. Has that changed in your conversations with Tom about he wants it here, or like that's the ideal situation he would want?
I think the ideal situation is to have it in Raleigh, somewhere in the Triangle area.
Okay. Okay. And I guess the other question I would have about all the building that's been going up too, we're focused on baseball, and I understand that we're at the early phases of this. But I think part of the plans were related to another concert venue that would be attached to PNC Arena for smaller shows. Like we just had Blink 182, perfect size of a building for a band like that. But there are some other bands that might not be able to fill out the entirety of PNC Arena. Is that still part of your vision for what's going on, or Tom's vision for what's going on in this area?
Yes. And again, nothing finalized yet. And there's deals to be worked out with the venue and deals to be worked out with how it's built and where the Centennial Authority wants it and all that. But certainly part of the plan for Phase 1 would be to include a 2,000 to 4,000 seat style or venue. It wouldn't be it'd be in the parking lot. It wouldn't actually be attached to the arena. But but a standalone venue that you could have smaller concerts in. But it could also be converted to use for other types of events, or maybe an esports thing, or even conferences of some type. That's definitely one of the goals.
It would be covered though, not like a Red Hat amphitheater type situation.
Indoor. Yes.
Okay. Quick break for the Hayes Permar portion of the questions. I'm told that you know Hayes Permar.
I'm not going to admit or deny that.
Okay. Hayes Permar, he's helping us, the Rialto. We've got our podcast festival coming up on August 24th. It'll be at the Rialto. Go to therialto.com to buy your tickets today. They're moving fast, Joe.
Huge.
This is from, all right, so question number one. Brian Fork played for the Clues Coney Island baseball team, so what is your go-to Clues order?
The cheesesteak all the way with the fries.
Okay.
Philly cheesesteak.
Now, do you put cheese on the fries, or is it just...
No, just plain fries with ketchup.
Okay.
And then a cheesesteak.
Okay. I'm a chicken veggie pita guy, cheese fries with the half and half. I go Arnold Palmer on that one.
The next one feels pretty good.
So this, again, the Hayes Permar lightning round. Did you invent the transfer portal by moving from Martin to Daniels after the 6th grade?
No, I was blessed by a redistricting scenario from Wake County to get me out of Martin before you became eligible to play sports in 7th grade.
And then the last...
And then we had a couple of fun times playing against Martin. Hayes was on the court in the field.
So this would be the last Hayes Permar lightning round question. Would it ever have been accurate to describe you as a, quote, irrational state fan?
Yeah, you already said it was fun. So.
No, not at all. That's incorrect.
Not irrational? No? All right, well, I'm gonna drill deeper on that. What was your general attitude going into the ACC tournament in Washington D.C. around NC State basketball?
I'm not going to lie about that. I was troubled, but I show up. I go to the games.
Yeah.
I sit in my seats and watch, and I'm there, and I get frustrated by the people who aren't there.
Yeah.
I sort of understand things had not been going as well, but I was not expecting to win the ACC championship and go to the Final Four.
You go to the Final Four?
I did. Nice.
You weren't doing fireball shots with Giglio. I'm a little disappointed. Which, all of this is a silly way to get to a general question and before we let you go. It's something that Doug mentioned in the press conference, and I'm sure you understand this too, coming to Canes games. It is the entity in this area that brings all kinds of sports fans together.
100%.
So how do you kind of take the skills that you might have picked up in the General Assembly, where you have a lot of folks that are on various sides of the aisle about stuff, to kind of come together and work on things like the gambling legislation and things like that? How do you kind of make this experience or this entertainment thing more of the same, an extension of what people kind of associate with the Canes?
I think it will have... So going back to the General Assembly point, the way that you try to make deals, or the way that I tried to put things together there, is where's the overlap? You know, everybody's not going to agree on everything. Everybody's got their different priorities. There's got to be some sort of overlap there, and you figure out what it is. And sometimes it's not obvious. You have to ask the probing questions. What is it that you're motivated by here? Well, do you also want to do this other thing over here? Oh, well, we might be able to do that too.
Okay.
So in piecing together deals, whether it was at the General Assembly and trying to get some sort of agreement on legislation, or I think, hopefully out here and watching what Philip Isley and Boo Corrigan and Don Waddell did with their deal. It's where do we have overlap, and how do we have enough conversations where we find some overlap that we might not have known about. I think to your question is, how do you get the Carolina fans, the Duke fans, the State fans, the Steelers fans who don't care about anything that's going on around here,
or to a certain extent non-sports fans, because I think that's been a big stumbling block for a lot of folks. This isn't just about improving for the sports teams,
right? That's what I was getting ready to say, and I am not a concert expert. I walked the building during the Blink concert last night and was impressed by the number of people here. And I mean, and there's a lot of people that are interested in the entertainment and music aspect of it. But I think that's a perfect segue into, if you create that smaller music venue, you have the large music venue here. As we develop other things that haven't been determined around the development, is there an opportunity for festivals of that type, or to bring, have a concert event? I mean, the goal for the traffic pattern is to be able to have a small concert event the same night that there's a Canes game, and the same night that people are able to drive clearly into their apartment or condo that they live in out here. You have the opportunity to potentially mix a lot more people together, which can fill up the restaurants, the retail, and the hotels if you're able to do more things at once.
I hope you took notes at the Final Four, because that was my number one takeaway. How impressive the traffic and everything that they had going on there. I know it was Glendale, but it was so smooth.
And just walking even the mixed use part, when you walked in and all those different restaurants were all the different fan base. That was what I was thinking about when I was walking through that.
I mean, I feel like getting people in isn't the problem. It's getting people out. If you don't, and I've experienced this with Canes games. Now that I'm just a normie and I take my family to Canes games and whatnot, if you don't time your exit, like if you stick around for the storm surge and you're parked a little closer to the building, you're going to be sitting there a while. So I get the parts of the getting in. You want to get in your apartment complex and everything else. My curiosity is, does that also affect how people get out? Because I feel like that's a completely different skill set.
And it 100% has to be part of the plan.
Okay.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but if you add more people here and don't create more ways to get out, it's just going to be worse.
Well, it's a lot of work, it seems. Hopefully it doesn't move at a glacial pace like a lot of these things tend to go. We're ready. I'm ready for this stuff. Brian Fork, CEO, Carolina Hurricanes. Congratulations on the job. Man. And I'm sure we'll be hitting you up for more of these ridiculous questions going forward.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Big thanks to Roback for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Check them out, roback.com. OG20 is the promo code. And with Roback, you're getting incredibly comfortable polos in standout patterns, incredibly comfortable pants and shorts. And I know you're not thinking about hoodies on July 31st, but before you know it, it will be hoodie season. And Roback's got excellent, elite hoodies, ladies and gentlemen.
I hesitate to share this.
Okay.
Because our friends at Roback, they listen to our program. And they heard when I said, when you said, did you buy something? SMU? And I was like, I love that Dallas. They call it the Triple D.
Okay.
Look what's in the works at Roback. Are you kidding?
Wait a minute.
Me.
I want a custom Roback hoodie.
Triple D. No. It's not custom. They have a deal with SMU. That will launch in August.
That's amazing.
They have, not spoiling anything. I know that they'll like this.
I see.
They have also finalized a deal with NC State, but that will be in the spring.
Gotcha. Okay. Spoiler alert.
They've got some different schools, but yes, this is the actual hoodie that I bought, by the way.
Oh, is it?
The white with the Triple D.
That's funny.
And Ben was like, you just waited.
I'll take it.
It's gonna be too big for you.
We're gonna get to SMU Pony Boys here in a second. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, cool.
Because they might actually be my new favorite team in the ACC.
They're mine.
I mean, anyway, check out that promo code OG20 when you go to roback.com. The Butcher's Markets, we appreciate them. We've been talking about the Summer Jam. It could not have happened without Kenneth over at the Butcher's Market handing out those steak tips. You can get those signature steak tips yourself. All you got to do is go to thebutchersmarkets.com. And of course, our friends over at Hometown Realty, already referenced them once when we were talking to Doug, all that new construction, everything else that's going on. Hometown Realty can help you out. understand where the incentives are with these builders, all you got to do is go to myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. As always, brought to you by Crank On Brewing. Check them out, crankonbrewing.com. I am actually controlling the Hey Joe questions today. Hey Joe, when did the Tar Heels become plucky? When did North Carolina basketball become a team that you shouldn't be sleeping on? You actually sent me this. Why are you sending me bracketology from Joe Lunardi? Number one.
I promised myself I wouldn't do this. But when I saw the headline, I was like, wait, I'm sorry. You mean like little old North Carolina?
Little old North Carolina.
The one of the most winningest programs in the history of college basketball, who gave us Michael Jordan and Dean Smith
little old
and
North
Roy
Carolina.
Williams. Don't sleep on them.
You know what, though? This is kind of brutal for NC State. NC State is in Joe Lunardi's next 4 out on July 31st. How are they going to? They have a lot of work to do,
How
Joe.
are they going to recover?
They have a lot of work to do. So that's my question. What the hell are you doing? Looking at Joe Lunardi bracketology in the middle of July.
I pulled a got, man.
Okay.
I got sucked in by the headline. I saw the headline.
There's that. And then there's, this thing about plucky North Carolina. Here's the funny thing about this. And I haven't spent too much time thinking about the deeper meaning of this, but when I couldn't find the bracketology, I just put into Google, North Carolina, don't sleep on the Tar Heels. You know how many hits get returned for that? There's a 2014-15 season preview from Seth Greenberg at ESPN saying, don't count out the Tar Heels. And who do I see in the shot for 14-15? Little old Marcus Page. Can't sleep on the Tar Heels. And this happened back in 2018. It started as a joke. When all the attention was on Zion and that group at Duke. He was the show. But meanwhile, you had Kobe White, who was also putting on a show.
All-timer.
And I just kept joking. Man, those under-the-radar Tar Heels, it was a joke.
Well, there's the common thread there. When Duke has a Cooper Flag, has a Zion Williams, and has in 15 Jahlil Okafor in that class that did deliver the national title.
Right.
We tend to focus on that and the shiny object and not realize, like, it is sort of ridiculous for Joe Lunardi to be like, don't sleep on this North Carolina team last year that was the #1 seed in the ACC.
Yeah, don't sleep on them.
Returns the best player in the conference. Don't sleep on them.
Don't sleep on them.
Not them.
Not the Tar Heels.
Like,
nobody talks about the Tar Heels.
Wait, what? But to your point, we see things from a triangle view. Everyone else sees things from a national view, which is, oh, Duke's got Cooper Flag and the greatest recruiting class of all time. Right. And they're going to be in the Champions Classic and win by 40 and raise a banner and be really excited about winning a game that doesn't mean anything and raising another recruiting banner as the greatest recruiting class in the history of basketball. But 2015 was a minute ago now, kids.
But this is not.
It was a minute ago.
But here's the funny thing about 2015. Again, this is a recurring thing with the Tar Heels. And it makes me wonder, is it a Tar Heel fan thing? Is it...
you mean they're trying to trigger?
Yeah, well, no, it's more of a, why is it that North Carolina is not an automatic anymore in the eyes of national folks the way that Duke is, the way that Kansas
as you said,
is.
they have Kansas as the #1 overall seed.
Right.
I actually did open up the article and it was like, oh, #1 overall seed is Kansas. And now I'm thinking, well, if you're not overlooking Kansas, I don't know. That's a great question.
It is, again, this is something that has slowly built over the last 10 years. And it's not like it's a new coach thing. I mean, you had Roy freaking Williams, and maybe it was a leftover effect of the people who thought Roy Williams wasn't that good of a coach, and all he had to do was recruit. Remember,
I was going to say maybe it was
while.
recruiting wise, but no, Carolina has a really good recruiting class coming in this year.
Yes.
So it's not that.
So I find it kind of strange that North Carolina has been knocked down a little bit over the last couple of years when people talk about them.
To be clear,
the freaking Tar Heels.
Not us.
No, not us.
To be clear. And again, I want to differentiate there. Within the triangle, I think we all understand the dynamic.
Yes.
I think outside of it, that's where you get into this. You're not. So, that's why when we have those conversations with Bomani, they're enlightening in the way that they are, in addition to his brilliance.
You sent me this from Matthew McConaughey. This is from Bleacher Report Betting. Matthew McConaughey nails sports betting. Okay.
Gambling for me, which I dabble with a little bit for entertainment's sake, it's like buying a ticket to the game. if I'm betting $100 on a game with my friend, I'm going to watch that game a hell of a lot closer. All right, I'm going to root. For that 3.5 hours, I'm going to be off the couch. And if I'm winning, I'm going to let him know that I knew it. And if I lose, I'm pretty sure that there's some bad calls by the refs or something, and I got screwed over like a Vegas foul.
Well, all right.
That's so true.
That is true.
Although I'm worried that me and Matthew McConaughey are betting at the same unit here, buddy. You got a lot more than I do.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Maybe he means a box is 80, not just the 100.
And we'll get out of here on this. And this is not for the numbers that Luke Fletcher, who's a listener of the podcast, tagged me in related to college football playoff and their payouts.
Okay.
Projected for 2026 in terms of revenue. I don't know where you got the numbers from. I don't know if those numbers are valid. I really do not know.
Okay.
But I got tagged in this, which of course it's Twitter, and all these people are now responding to it, and I keep getting a notification. I'm like, just mute this crap. And that's not an indictment on Luke. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That's a thought starter. But when I was scrolling through, if you're watching on YouTube, P3 Enthusiast, and his Twitter name is PonyPower82. I have I'm left to no other conclusion other than that's an SMU fan.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because look at the image he just made. My Little Conference, Big 12, in the style of My Little Pony. Right? And I'm just thinking to myself, if SMU fan is going to be this online, kind of how Big East basketball fan is extremely online, if this is what SMU is bringing to the table, welcome. With arms wide open. Yes, come on in, SMU. You are welcome in the Go ACC ecosystem. If these are the deep fried memes we're gonna get from y'all,
sign me up.
I will text Jim Phillips and say I'll take back everything I said about SMU.
To be fair, it wasn't SMU we were mad about.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for today's show. We will see you for a Sleek Fleet OG Live tomorrow at 2:00 on YouTube.